Hey, I went to Vintage Computer Festival Midwest 2023 last weekend, and did I have a good time? And did I find any good items to bring home to the studio? Let's find out. I started the trip with the lovely accountant wishing me a great trip. I think she was looking forward to some alone time with the remote, if I'm being honest. Jamie offered to drive again this year and make the long trip 5 houses down from his house to pick me up. I threw in my bags and away we went. Our drive was from Columbus, Indiana to Elmhurst, Illinois, and it should be an easy 4-hour drive. It should be. All right, so Jamie brings me along in his Type R, and sure enough, we had tire issues, as you can see. After we determined that it was just a low pressure warning on all tires, Jamie got all the tires back up to spec and we were on the road again. We shouldn't have any more issues along the way. That is, until our GPS decides to take us off the highway and through the back roads of northern Indiana. No earthly idea where we're going. Not long after, we were quickly back on the highway to finish the last leg of our journey to Elmhurst. Okay, so we finally made it to Chicago. We've actually been here for a couple hours, and we are not at the event hotel. We're at a different location, which works fine. It's just, gosh, it's probably 5 minutes down the road, which actually works out nicely. So we plan on spending the entire day there tomorrow. We just got back from dinner, went to a little American diner, retro diner, which was kind of cool. They had some really cool stuff in there, pretty good food, Chicago types of diner fare, so it was okay. And afterwards, we decided to drive on over to the event hotel and just watch some of the setup. And as you can see, a lot of people were there getting set up, had a great time looking at things, checking things out a little bit early, which was kind of fun, meeting some folks that we've not met before. And then we'll see about Sunday if we want to spend a couple hours in the morning or if we just want to go back. But I think we're going to be able to get the majority of it done on Saturday in a single day, but we'll see. So stay tuned. We'll see how that turns out. That evening, we saw a couple of fun setups, including this Naboo setup, which, as you all know, I have been obsessed with the Naboo lately. And here's a spectacular shot of the ZX Spectrum Next and my thumb. Here you can see the hustle and bustle to get everything ready in the main hallways. It was crunch time at this late hour of the evening. While roaming the halls, I found these speaker phones from Radio Shack and fell in love with them. I ended up purchasing one, and I'm sure you will see it in future videos. And here's a quick story. Before Vintage Computer Festival Midwest, I arranged to purchase a Commodore SX-64. I was super excited. I technically was given dibs. I saw this sign though on the for sale board when I arrived, and I texted the individual to let them know, hey, I'm here and want to see that SX-64 in the morning. So hold on to that thought for a minute. More on this story to come. Let's get back to more sights and sounds of the evening prep. Whether you need a retro computer or peripherals, VCFMW is definitely the place you can go to find it. Okay, after a quick look around, we headed back to the car and to the hotel. We really needed to get some rest for the next day. Jamie and I had a quick breakfast in the hotel, and he surprised me with this cool LCD badge to wear. It was the perfect addition to my retroCombs logoed shirt, which, by the way, those are available in the video description down below. We arrived about 15 minutes before the show began and was greeted with an already full parking lot and had to use street parking. Jamie found this furthest from the hotel spot. Just giving you a little grief, Jamie. It was a fine walk. Along the way, we ran into this sweet ride with a sunscreen image that was burned into our heads for the remainder of the morning.
Get one of those for the truck.
Our long walk was over, and new this year were outdoor vendors. Jamie was interested in a couple of 8GB drives. Check out his channel, Jamie's Hack Shack, if you want to know more about his purchases. Many of the vendor tables had some cool retro items. I'm glad the VCFMW team allowed them space in the parking lot. I was intrigued by these old magazines and meant to come back and rummage through them, but forgot. Maybe next year. How about a ZX Spectrum for $30? Good deal? Leave comments below and check out Jamie's channel for more on this developing story. But I did dig this small TV and executive Panasonic handheld with printer in a cool 1980s suede case. It seems this was the year I was interested in computers with cases, as you'll find as you continue watching. You are still watching, right? Inside the venue, the halls were busy as folks entered to grab their badges, shirts, and make their first stops. I came out of the hallway and around the corner to find Robin from 8-Bit Show and Tell.
How's it going?
Good, how are you doing, man? Good to see you. Or as I call him, my 8-Bit guru. When folks recognized me, I would give them their choice of a sticker or magnet. In some cases, I gave them both, whether they wanted it or not. So I gave Robin one and saw that he was busy getting his items all cleaned up. I asked him if it was a struggle to bring all his computers across the Canadian border. Spoiler alert, it is. Ron's computers table was next with a nice selection of items. Now, I'm not going to cover everything that was there in this video, lest you think that's where we're headed, but I'm just going to hit a few highlights that I found interesting. Randy from Floppy Days Podcast also had a table. Even though Randy and I live about 45 minutes apart in Indiana, this was the first time we'd ever met. And this brings us to my first purchase. Adam was selling some Apple IICs and Jamie helped me find the perfect model. Now, I'm not an old Apple guy and I'm excited to have one. More in videos later, but remember my fascination with computers with handhelds? Here's the first one. We ran into Jim Brain and Jamie got a primer on how to burn a Jiffy DOS ROM.
I think I've got one of each.
Okay. So the 128 ROM is pretty easy. All the pins are the same.
Little mini meetup. And then we ran into Greg. You'll see Greg pop up later.
Greg here, and we got Jamie over here, so hey guys.
And then it was over to Bonus Life Computers, one of my favorite stops. I'm always happy with my Bonus Life computer purchases and stop by to browse when I ran into this beautiful Heathkit computer with these two, not one, two Gotex installed. Why didn't I purchase it? Didn't have a handle? Well, no, that's not really the reason. Stay tuned to learn why this wasn't a purchase. And this is one of the most popular areas. It's a free pile where you just come and go and grab whatever you want and pay nobody anything. It's a great place. Remember those stickers and magnets?
Future was 8-bit box. Always good stuff in there. Oh, you know me?
I recognize you.
Oh, man. I gotta give you something for you. You like a magnet or a sticker?
I'll give you something. Just a PCB.
Hey, I love it. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Good to meet you.
I have a Pi P8. It's still in a box, needs to be assembled, and was interested in an 11, but alas, no handle. And speaking of the SX-64, I later found out that I evidently didn't have dibs as I was told. But here's the kicker. I had the SX-64 in my hands when an individual came, handed the seller the money, and then the seller said, "It's yours." Wait, what? No handled computer for me? And VCFMW isn't just about computers. Interested in old school telephony? It's there, and they even had a line technician on hand. And Jamie wanted to see if we could get this printer in the back of his car. I think not, Jamie. Next up was another Naboo, but this time running Ishkar CPM instead of Cloud CPM. And what's a retro computer show without some version of Space Invaders? This ZX Spectrum with real keys intrigued Jamie. Wonder if he bought that ZX Spectrum earlier? Keep watching. One of the things I love about the show is not only seeing retro computers, but learning from the experts who used them originally. Need a board? Any kind of board, you'll find it here. Along with the largest working Commodore C64 designed after an SX-64. Oh sure, rub it in. Dave, the 8-bit guy, was there, but alas, he wasn't available for comment. Probably saw me coming and bolted off. Ben was there with another great table as usual, and as always, sharing his knowledge with his fans and printing off gifts for visitors. I, of course, was glad to see Zaxxon, my favorite game of all time, on display. This Phoenix computer and drive intrigues me, and I would love to cover it on my channel, but funds are a bit tight right now. If you want to help fund the purchase of a Phoenix computer, check out the video description below, or if you are a Phoenix folk, if that's what we call you, reach out. Let me know. I'll be happy to grab one, take one off your hands, and review it for you on the channel. And here's the YouTuber session. And no, I was not invited, as a few folks on the floor asked. I guess 15 subscribers doesn't really buy you a chair on that stage. And not only can you learn about retro computers, you can also find on-site repair and technical assistant. Hey, who needs Apple Vision goggles? Now, you all know I'm a Commodore guy, but I have always been fascinated by the Atari competition, and this Falcon is one of the few Atari computers I'd look to add to my collection. Here's some additional items on the floor for sale. Here's an example of one of the amazing ways retro computer folks are using the low-cost Raspberry Pi Pico. By the way, I've got a Pico project in planning. I'm not interested in IBM PCs, but if I were, these handhelds and precursor to the Cyberdeck would be just the ticket, especially if you slapped a handle on it.
I was at the one in Dallas 3 months ago. Yeah, it's quite overwhelming.
Oh, and running OS2 on this handheld is just plain cool, even if it's not 8-bit. If you were there, you could have grabbed 2 Apple IIIs for a song, but no handle, and the 2C was already in my bag. By the way, if you grab these 2 Apple IIIs, let me know. Folks, playing games is a common pastime during the show. And here's a new one, Eastern Bloc Game Systems. And what about that Heathkit I was interested in earlier?
Now, here's the other thing. It worked fine once this morning. And then my wife stepped on the power strip and turned it off, and then turned it right back on. I don't think that's going to matter because this thing doesn't do anything with power strip. But that's when it stopped working. Hi.
Hey. I saw somebody working on it, so I thought I'd come over and see.
Okay.
No Heathkit computer for me yet. And here's the Commodore I always wanted but couldn't afford during college. Now, I had a C128, but I didn't have the 128D. And then it was time for lunch for me, Jamie, and Greg. For 3 years running, lunch has always been at Portillo's, a popular Chicago eatery.
There we go. 3 amigos walking back to the show. How about that?
And found it was even more packed with people. First stop back was to Jim's table for a look at his goodies, and I was fascinated with his 8-bit Oculus clone, the VR64.
So inside you have...
Inside is a 5-inch LCD.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, your eyes are just seeing the halves of the LCDs. It's got composite input on that LCD, 12-volt power feed, so it's super easy to hook up to the Commodore 64. It took me a while to find one that actually accepted the composite signal out of the 64.
Yeah.
And so then I have, when you're playing the game, you rotate your view using the Atari driving controller, just to piss off the Atari guys.
That's awesome. That is great.
And then you attack with a punch knife, gun, and grenade.
Of course, he brought his Mega 65 and showed off the development of his basic game, Basic Star Galactica. This is a basic program running at 40 megahertz.
My buddy did the music conversion from the old, 1970s, late 70s TV series. You got your spaceship, you fly around, they got momentum going.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Subpixel movement.
Jamie decided to check out Jim's stupid pet tricks. Why? Well, you'll need to check out his channel or stay tuned for a sneak peek. This bling board is going to be available on Indiegogo in about a month, and I'd highly recommend you take a look at it. It is pretty cool without giving too much away. Hey, I ran into Matt from RetroBits. He's got 4 times more subs than I have, so that gets him about 100. And you definitely want to check him out. He's got a great channel. I kid on the number of subscribers, Matt. Jamie, Greg, and I took a little break before heading into the big retro auction. We knew we were going to have to rest up for that 3-hour marathon. The auction was standing room only. Now, I did bid on a few items, was close on one, but didn't snag anything. Jamie, on the other hand, was a winner. More on that later. And here's a sample of how the auction goes.
Gary, you have auction bidder card. So if you win an auction, Gary will come over and hand you a card, and you will be that bidder number from there out. You find the spreadsheet. That is a sealed Naboo. Everyone knows the Naboo saga that's unfolded over the last year. It's a Naboo box. Who has got the first $20 on the number? There's $20 right there. 30 bucks, 30 bucks. Who's got 30? 30 over here in the front. Who's got 170? 170 is going once. Until I see a hand, 170 is going twice. And thanks, Hank.
Greg came up and said, hey, I know where there is another SX-64 for sale. Quickly ran with him to the booth, and there it was. And this thing was in near mint condition. It was in even better condition than the one I tried to get earlier.
So you feeling good about this purchase, sir?
Yeah.
Finally.
I'll have to share more about this purchase in a later video, but I do have pictures on my Twitter if you'd like to see them. Seems I am going home with a handled Commodore computer. We stopped back by Jim Brain's booth to pick up some Jiffy DOS ROMs, but he was kind enough to give me some tips on the SX-64 once I told him I purchased one. And here's the haul. And one more time, be sure to check out Jamie's Hack Shack to learn about the son and pet purchases, and you can learn more about that ZX Spectrum you saw at the very beginning for $30. We packed everything up in the car. It's time for us to say goodbye to Greg, who was heading back that evening, and Jamie and I were quite frankly, getting pretty hungry. Could it get any more appropriate than to eat at a restaurant called Amiga's? Now, there weren't any computers in there, but there was some fine, authentic Mexican food and karaoke. I was asked to sing a song, but told them, if you want to keep your customers, I'll pass. The next morning, we found a few more vendors outside we missed or had just arrived. Jamie had to make a purchase at the Blue Scuzzy table, and I noticed that the Sunday attendance was not nearly as large as Saturday. Tip for those who want to avoid larger crowds. But no, you're probably not going to find many things on sale or find great deals. Remember Andrew, who I met yesterday and gave him my sticker? Well, we sat around and talked about C64 OS. I really want to get this running on the C64 core on the Mega 65. On our way out, we spotted another station wagon. Now, this one had a really familiar hat inside. And Jamie had to make one more stop by the hard drive van before we headed back to Columbus, the hard drive van. But if we hadn't had enough computers, we decided to stop at the new Micro Center store in Indianapolis, and oh my. We both purchased a few Raspberry Pi Zeros for our Pi DP8s and a few other knickknacks. We followed up with a Jersey Mike stop and finished up the remainder of our drive. We pulled up to my home late afternoon, unloaded my stuff, and Jamie headed to his home a few houses down. Overall, Jamie and I commented that we both enjoyed the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest more this year than we had in previous years. This was my third visit. My first VCFMW was the first year after COVID, and last year we just felt rushed. This year we had so much more time to chat with folks and enjoy the show. 2 overnights made it much more enjoyable and leisurely. I hope you enjoy my take on Vintage Computer Festival Midwest, and remember to watch the other videos that others post where you'll get a different perspective and you'll get a different experience from their side attending the festival. For everybody, the experience is just a little bit different. So thanks for watching, and hey, retroCombs out. Hey, wait a minute. I'll be able to do that with a real SX-64 next time. Cool.